All right, everyone. Welcome back. I am so glad to see that you've actually returned. I thought that a youth pastor teaching the Bible in a pair of shorts and a t-shirt might scare some of you off. But just so you know, I spent way too much time thinking about what to wear for this. Because I do try to think about what I wear and when I wear it, and modesty is an issue. I want to dress appropriately for the right things. And sometimes even as an adult, it can be hard to figure that out, right? I did decide for this evening to not wear a backwards hat. I don't know if that would offend some of you, but that's something that I would normally do on a Wednesday night with my students. But I'm not doing it for the sake of you guys, because it's kind of weird, this meeting, right? We've got students who are just outside playing scatterball, dodgeball, and we're in the grass sweating in 90-degree heat, and we're coming in here to join you guys for a Bible study and prayer service. So it's a little difficult to dress for this event, but this dynamic, among many other things, make this meeting that I think we're about to have very unique. I hope that it doesn't make for unique smells as well. I trust you'll overlook those in love. But I have been looking forward to this all week. I've been looking back out at you guys, just a large group of people who are all dressed differently, who all come from very different types of jobs, different types of families and cultures, from different generations, and we're all gathered in the middle of our week to focus on God and His Word together. And I think that's incredible. That's nothing short of a miracle. He has brought us together. God is crossing every boundary with the faithful preaching of His Word. And through the work of the Holy Spirit in us. We can see that evidenced. So let's get into the Word. Please open your Bibles to Ecclesiastes chapter 1. When you came in, you should have also received a prayer guide and then the handout as well. I have 3-hole punched that handout for you, and I have about 40 binders on that back table in the corner. So if you would like one, go ahead and raise your hand right now, and then hopefully one or two of my students will jump up back there and bring it around to you. Can I have a student? I'll volunteer Adam. Adam, will you and Mitch, will you guys go hand out some binders for us? The binders is yours to keep. Please write your name down somewhere so that you can find it again. I am willing to keep all of our binders in that back closet. So if you fill out and work on that and write your name on it, you can add to your collection and then save it after this semester. And then you have the benefit of not having to bring it with you every week. It'll be here ready to go for you. All right, before we read, let's just briefly review what we talked about last week. You'll see some empty boxes at the top of your handout, and I did tell you last week there'd be a quiz on this, right? No? Well, there's a quiz. Pop quiz. School has started. All right, and you can go ahead and go to the next screen, Blair. I think my iPad should stick out there. All right, so last week, we were talking about some of these investigative questions before we actually dive into the book of Ecclesiastes. We discovered, if we're picking up a random letter, we want to know who's it written by, who's it written to, when is it written, why are they writing. So does anybody remember who wrote Ecclesiastes? Yeah. King Solomon, yes. And then also, what else do we know about King Solomon? He's smart. He's intelligent, I heard. What else? He was rich. Wise. God gave him lots and lots of wisdom. Yep. So I would just write down a bunch of these characteristics here. He had many wives. What else? Son of King David. Anything else? The teacher, yep. All right. He built the temple. Yeah, lots of achievements, certainly under King Solomon. Let's think about this next question. This is probably the trickiest question, but to whom? Does anybody know who this book was written to? Yeah. His son? Yeah, that's possible. We actually see, I believe there's only one reference to this. Any chance that he's teaching anybody else or writing to anybody else? Yeah.
There is absolutely a chance that he's writing to anyone else. Most likely the quote future generation at that time.
Yep, to future generations. Yeah, he might be trying to pass on wisdom. I would say he seems to also be writing to anybody who's seeking wisdom, right? He's specifically appealing to people they're looking to be wise. Okay, let's look at when. Does anybody know when Solomon wrote this? Yes. Sometime at the end of his life. Yes. So we don't necessarily know the exact day and year, right? But at least compared to his other books, Proverbs, Song of Solomon, what seems to be the order of books that he wrote? Any ideas? Yeah.
Proverbs, Song of Solomon, and Ecclesiastes.
Yes. Yep. So this is probably the last thing that he wrote in terms of wisdom literature. And it's possible that it's a reflection on all the proverbs and wisdom that he wrote down in the previous books. What else is happening at the time that he's writing? What is David thinking about? What's his context? It's the end of his life, near the end of his life. What else might be going on? What might he be thinking about? Mm-hmm. Absolutely. He's doing this big search for meaning. Was my life worthwhile? Did it have purpose, meaning here? But he's also thinking about the future too, right? He's thinking about his son having to take the kingdom after him, the future state of the kingdom. Did all of the work that he did, right? Like all of this work in the kingdom that he has poured his entire life into, is it going to stand or is it going to fall? Like this is something he's thinking about, he's weighing, right? Now, you can already see how some of these investigative questions have helped us to think through the why. But why is Solomon writing this book? Yeah. To teach people? Yep. Why else? Any other guesses? To share wisdom. Yep. To teach wisdom. Yep. Does anybody remember the conclusion that we saw at the end of the book of Ecclesiastes? This might be a key for us to remember here. The sum of the matter is this. The conclusion of the matter is this. After all has been heard, fear God and keep his commands, right? So that's a big why. All right, so let's keep that key in the back of our mind. It'll unlock this text for us as we start to read. And I'd like to have us start reading from the New King James Version, which is not on your handout. And then I'd like us to read from the CSB version, which is on the handout. As we read, I want to encourage you, just underline the words that you find to be important. Underline the words that stick out to you and catch your attention. And then after the King James, we'll read the CSB, but can I have a volunteer who wants to read from the New King James? Anybody have that translation? Zach, you ready? Sure.
The words... Is this thing on? Okay. The words of the preacher, the son of David, king in Jerusalem. Vanity of vanities, says the preacher. Vanity of vanities, all is vanity. What profit has a man from all his labor in which he toils under the sun? One generation passes away, and another generation comes. But the earth abides forever. The sun also rises, and the sun goes down, and hastens to the place where it arose. The wind goes toward the south and turns to the north. The wind whirls about continually and comes again on its circuit. All the rivers run to the sea, yet the sea is not full. To the place from which the rivers come, there they return again. All things are full of labor. Man cannot express it. The eye is not satisfied with seeing, nor the ear filled with hearing. That which has been is what will be. That which is done is what will be done. And there is nothing new under the sun. Is there anything of which it may be said, see, this is new? It has already been in ancient times before us. There is no remembrance of former things, nor will there be any remembrance of things that are to come by those who will come after. I, the preacher, was king over Israel and Jerusalem, and I set my heart to seek and search out by wisdom concerning all that is done under heaven. This burdensome task God has given to the sons of man, by which they may be exercised. I have seen all the works that are done under the sun, and indeed, all is vanity and grasping for the wind. What is crooked cannot be made straight, and what is lacking cannot be numbered. I commune with my heart, saying, look, I have attained greatness, and I have gained more wisdom than all who were before me in Jerusalem. My heart has understood great wisdom and knowledge, and I set my heart to know wisdom, and to know madness and folly. I perceive that this is also grasping for the wind. For in such wisdom is much grief, and he who increases knowledge increases sorrow.
All right, CSB reader. Somebody willing to read from the CSB? Yeah, cool.
The words of the teacher, son of David, king in Jerusalem. Absolute futility, says the teacher. Absolute futility, everything is futile. What does a person gain for all his efforts that he labors at under the sun? Generation goes and a generation comes, but the earth remains forever. The sun rises and the sun sets, panting, it hurries back to the place where it rises. Gusting to the south, turning to the north, turning goes the wind, and the wind returns in its cycles. All the streams flow to the sea, yet the sea is never full. To a place where the streams flow, there they flow again. All things are wearisome, more than anyone can say. The eye is not satisfied by seeing, nor is the ear filled with hearing. What has been is what will be, and what has been done is what will be done. There's nothing new under the sun. Can one say about anything, look, this is new? It has already existed in the ages before us. There's no remembrance of those who came before, and of those who will come after. There will also be no remembrance by those who follow them. I, the teacher, have been king over Israel and Jerusalem. I applied my mind to examine and explore through wisdom and all that is done under heaven. God has given people this miserable task to keep them occupied. I have seen all things that are done under the sun and found everything to be futile, a pursuit of the wind. What is crooked cannot be straightened. What is lacking cannot be counted. I said to myself, see, I have amassed wisdom far beyond all those who were over Jerusalem before me. My mind has thoroughly grasped wisdom and knowledge. I applied my mind to know wisdom and knowledge, madness and folly. I learned that this too is a pursuit of the wind. For with much wisdom is much sorrow. As knowledge increases, grief increases.
All right, thank you so much. All right, our first inductive question that I have for us there on our worksheet is, what visual imagery does this text provide? I'm just going to go through and underline or highlight in green anything in our text that is visual. It's a mental picture for us. What do you have? Sunrise and sunsets. Water flows. Where's the sunset? There we go. What else? Yep.
The wind.
The wind. What else? Which one here? We got a lot of sun, right? We got labors under the sun. It's hurrying back to its place, setting and going right back to where it started. Yep.
Running after the physics concept.
I'm sorry?
Running after the wind.
Running after the wind. Yep. The streams are flowing. That's interesting. So the generation, what's the mental image there for you? Okay. Yep. Anything else that sticks out to you visually? Eyes and ears. Where was that at? Thank you.
Verse 15 was crooked, cannot be straightened.
It's crooked, cannot be straightened. Yep. You can't. That's happened to you guys before, right? You accidentally bit something out of shape, like a paper clip, and then you try to get it right back to it never goes back. Right? That's frustrating. Yep. Okay. Just real quick, what might Solomon be trying to do with all this imagery? Why is he using all of these visuals? Yeah.
Show multiple ways that stuff is futile.
He's showing us what is futile, right? What else? Why do you think he's being very visual with us?
Because he wants to show you how depressing life is.
He's trying to get us to look at life around us, right? He's like, look at all these things near you. And yes, look at the meaninglessness of it, the purposelessness of it outside of God, right? All right, number 2. What topics does Solomon touch on? So maybe not a mental image or a visual, but what's a topic that he seems to bring up and just quickly give you a quick take on? Yeah. Futility. Right? That seems to be a huge thing that comes up. We see that all throughout the beginning. The passing of time. We see words like hurrying back to place. But then we see there's this hurrying change that takes place, but then we also see like what has been done is what will be. There's things that are unchangeable, right? And then there's things that change all the time. Wearisome. That was near the bottom, right? Verse 8. Yeah, all things are wearisome, exhausting. What's the point of it, right? Anything else that you see? Yes?
I just find it interesting that God, it's from verse 13, God has given people this miserable task to keep them occupied.
That's very interesting. What do you think, and this is for everybody, what do you think he might be trying to say with this? Just his quick take on this topic. This miserable task. I mean, it seems like, I don't know if you've ever had a job where it seems like they're just giving you like a busy work, like just keep yourself busy. You got time to lean, you got time to clean kind of thing, right? Yeah.
I think there's not really much to do, so God gives people meaningless tasks.
Possibly, yes.
I think it goes back to the Garden of Eden when he created man initially in man's perfection. Work was supposed to be like a joy in a way of serving God, but then after the fall, it's like it's going to be a toil. You're going to be against the earth is going to be against you. So work became a miserable task.
Absolutely. And I mean, what we see in wisdom is that the beginning of wisdom is the fear of the Lord, right? And so God has given people this miserable task, being, I applied my mind to examine and explore through wisdom all that is done under heaven, right? This is the miserable task. The miserable task is seeking out God's glory in the wisdom, all that is under heaven. We're trying to seek how God works in what he's created, in what he's revealed to us, right? So that's the miserable task, is to learn about God. That seems pretty miserable, right? Well, if it can be frustrating sometimes if there's a mystery to this, like there's a never-endingness to this, right? You can explore God and learn, and the depth is just never satisfied, right? Anything else? Any other topics that he wants to talk about? Yeah.
It seems really cyclical, especially in the beginning, and it seems like there's a frustration that it's all in a circle, that it's not making progress forward.
Right, the streams flow to the sea, and then they flow right back to where they started, right? So there's cycles here. The sun starts, and then it comes right back to where it started. The cycles thing, we're going to come back to that. That's an interesting insight from this chapter. Yes?
Also, the brevity of life is referred to in verse 11.
In verse 11.
We're not going to remember those. We don't remember those who came before. Even people who aren't born yet aren't going to remember. Or do we remember?
There is a prayer that I pray every time I get up in a pulpit, and it is, preach, die, and be forgotten. I mean, honestly, like, I really don't care if anybody remembers me this generation, next, 3 generations from now. Like, we're all going to be forgotten. Your kids will probably remember you for a while, but then your kids might, those kids might not. Like, it happens fast. There are so many faithful Christians who have died and been forgotten that nobody remembers them right now, right? Any other topics? Yes. Why is that, do you think? Let's just spend some time thinking about that. How does wisdom, something that all throughout the book of Proverbs, Solomon is saying, go get wisdom. How does that bring about sorrow? Matt?
Well, it's like, if ignorance is bliss, right? If you don't know about these things, you can live in a certain untouched reality.
Yeah. Yeah.
As you expand, you touch sorrow, you touch loss, then yeah, your wisdom does increase as you learn how to navigate and survive these things, but with that comes sorrow.
Yeah. I like to explain this, or at least in my mind, I think of it like this. When my mind was opened up to how bad my family situation was, I started to see all the other Christian families in church, and I got to see how a family was supposed to be. And then, so my mind, I was given wisdom of what a biblical family should look like. Now that I have that wisdom and I go home and I see how much of a struggle it is for my family, there's so much sorrow that comes in from that. Because I see what hasn't worked out the way God intended. I see the pain and suffering that comes from disobedience. So yeah, wisdom can bring about a lot of that knowledge that might tend to depress you a little bit. Yeah, that's an interesting thing to think about. Okay. All right, do we see any patterns or themes emerge from this text? And I think we've already been talking about it. We certainly see cycles as a pattern. Anything else that you see here? Patterns or themes? If you had to give me one word to describe a pattern or a theme from this chapter, what would it be? Futility of life, right? Yes. Okay, what would you say?
Repetition.
Repetition, okay, there's some repetition. What word's being repeated? Monotony. Futility, yep. Which also means meaninglessness, purposelessness. Yep, okay. Now, how does this theme of purposelessness tend to affect larger and larger things? Think about that question for a second. How does that theme of purposelessness just kind of consume you if you dwell on that too much? Yep. Right. Yes. There's an anxiety behind, why am I doing what I'm doing? And that anxiety can grow larger and larger and larger. If you don't know why you're doing your job, then it can go to, well, why am I alive? What's the purpose of my life? Right? If I find my identity in those things, and then I realize, what is the meaning of this? Like if I'm hit with that like existentialism of who God is and how small my life is, that can feel very purposeless, and it can grow and feel like it's this huge burden. I've counseled a lot of people with depression, and that's something that tends to be a reality that they're dealing with, is they've just gotten lost in this purposelessness. Now, can we think of ways that purposelessness can either bring about anxiety and peace, both sides of that coin. How can purposelessness, or at least what we see in this purposelessness of this chapter, how can that bring us peace? Can anybody connect those dots? Matt.
Well, I think you'll be able to hold things with an open hand. Right? If your idols, if everything that we run to outside of the Lord as a source of comfort or medication, whatever, if all those get rocked and you reduce them to their base value, which is nothing, right? Then you will find that rest in the Lord as everything gets exposed. Your life gets turned upside down. And so, yeah, it's a tumultuous process, but the end result, if you let it, right, play itself out, then you'll be left with nothing but God, because you'll understand that nothing else.
Absolutely. Yeah, and just to summarize in maybe a different way, there's lots of different paths that we can take in life, right? There's lots of different pursuits that we can be pursuing, lots of different things that are more or less worthwhile, right? But what Solomon, our teacher, is doing is he's going systematically through everything in life, and he's saying, look, it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. Look, you care about making an impact on your generation, your world. You want to be a social media influencer and get a big following? A generation goes and a generation comes, but the earth remains forever. You're going to be forgotten. That influence won't matter in the grand scheme of things, right? So there's a peace in knowing I don't have to go down every road. I don't have to pursue this thing. I see very clearly from God's word all of these paths that are maybe even worthwhile in terms of what everybody else is doing. That's worthless compared to knowing God, pursuing him, seeking him in his wisdom, right? So there's lots of peace that can come from that. Yeah.
The psychological aspects of what is coming up here is that this book is all about value. What is valuable?
Mm-hmm.
And to define that is even more interesting. But mankind in its own, ignoring the commandments of God, ignoring the creation of God, decides we'll do it our own way. I want this, I want that, I want more of that. I can rule, I can have this many servants, I can rule over that many people. You know, I can beat that group down if they don't do what I tell them to do, so that I am more valuable. And even if you become king, and you have seen how many hundreds of wives, how many soldiers, how many people have you overcome, how much land have you taken in and gained property of? All of that, when you die, what then?
Yeah.
Your son gets it, but what is he going to do? Because what does he think is the right thing to pursue?
Yeah.
He keeps pointing it out, and right at the very end of the book, it all comes down to fear God and keep his commandments, for this is man's all.
Right. Yeah.
And that's where the word value that everybody's been looking for and trying to earn all their lives through centuries and centuries, through products and quantity of different things. It all comes down to God and his commandments.
Yeah. I think throughout this entire book of Ecclesiastes, he's going to basically force you to ask the question, then if everything is meaningless, what does matter? Where do I find value? And again, we're using that key from the back of the book. We cheated and we opened up to the last page. We're using that key to remind ourselves, yes, this isn't worthwhile. There's no value in this. There's no lasting, eternal value in this. But there is value in the fear of the Lord. There is value in seeking God's wisdom and obeying his commands, right? In just simply following him. I think that's what he's boiling this down to. Now, I'm going to skip 2 questions for the sake of time. I'm still figuring out how to navigate this. But I do want you to think through just for yourself, what do I learn about God from this text? What do I learn about man or myself from this text? And you can even use inferences or like a second level of implication. So like, if this is true, and this is what God is teaching in this chapter, what does that reveal about the nature or the character of God? If God likes to work in cycles, how does that what does that teach me about who God is, right? And then the same thing with man. What does this teach about man? I mean, he's showing us all the things that men typically care about, right? All the things that we try to find value in. He's pointing out, nope, that's not worthwhile. So we see very clearly what man likes. But I did also want to just take a moment to think through how would we summarize this? So bonus question, if you were going to preach on this whole chapter, what would your big idea be? If you had to give a big idea statement, and that's the main point of your message, what would it be? Yeah.
Fear God, keep his commands.
Fear God and keep his commands. It's interesting because that doesn't show up in this first chapter. So as a general rule of thumb, the main point of your sermon should always be the main point of that text, which is hard because we're using a key from the last chapter to influence how we understand this chapter. But what else? How would you summarize this? What's the main point? Big idea. Quick one. Yeah.
Everything else besides what you just said is worthless.
Okay. Okay, so something as simple as like everything other than God is worthless. Yep, okay.
Everything comes and goes in cycles, and nothing lasts forever.
Everything comes and goes, nothing lasts forever. Yeah, I could preach. Any other ideas? God is eternal. Yep. I didn't catch that one.
We have eternity with God, that's the only way. Everything else is futile.
Yeah. Everything else is futile. We have eternity with God. That should be the thing we're focused on. Here's my homiletical outline that I might use someday. I posed all of these as questions because I want to bring about what is the answer to these questions. So the big idea, can meaning and purpose be found outside of God? I think very clearly from this chapter, we see no. There's nothing that can be found, there's no meaning that can be found outside of God. And then a few points. What is truly permanent? We've been talking about permanence, eternity, and then everything that just kind of comes and goes in cycles. B, what is worth pursuing? And then C, what's the point of wisdom and knowledge if it just brings grief and sorrow? I think these questions are great to think through. Now, I did also want to point out that at the back of this handout, I've got some discussion application questions. Students going forward, what we're going to do right after the inductive Bible study is we're going to break up into 4 groups, and we're going to go through these questions together as students. We're not doing that tonight. We're hopefully going to be doing that next week. So we're going to stay here as students and join them for the prayer service one last week. But everybody else, we will always have these discussion application questions for you. If you're a parent of a teenager, I encourage you to talk through these questions with them at home or as you're driving home, or just as an adult, as you're leaving, talk to some people about some of these questions. I think it'd be a really good way to try to tie it into our day-to-day life. I spend a lot of time thinking through how to apply by way of questions. Sometimes they hit, sometimes they're a miss, but I think that it's usually good to think through. So let me pray, and then I'll invite James to come and do our prayer service. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for the book of Ecclesiastes. Thank you that you took the time to raise up wise King Solomon to explore all of these different paths that we could take in life, and that he wrote what seems to be a very pessimistic, existential, nihilistic, just depressing book to reveal to us that really there is only one path in life that is worth pursuing, and it's found in your Son. So Lord, please help us to see that. Help us to hold on to that and be encouraged by that. Lord, please give us the peace that comes from knowing that we don't have to chase you in all of these different paths of life. Help us to just set our minds and our hearts on pursuing you in wisdom. It's in your Son's name that I pray. Amen.